Reports from France confirm Adrian Newey is furious and in open revolt after Mercedes revealed a controversial engine trick. That just rendered the new Aston Martin obsolete. It is January 27, 2026, and the Formula One world has descended on Barcelona for the most anticipated preseason shakedown in decades. However, the headline isn't the cars on the track, but rather the panic happening behind closed doors at Aston Martin. This was supposed to be the year everything changed, with new regulations and the dream team of Adrian Newey, Fernando Alonso, and Honda finally uniting to dethrone the establishment. Lawrence Stroll spent billions building a state-of-the-art factory at Silverstone explicitly for this moment, promising that Newey builds the chassis, Honda builds the engine, and Alonso wins the title. That dream is currently collapsing. While Red Bull and Mercedes have started strong, Aston Martin is missing from the track and has delayed their shakedown until later in the week, citing production delays. Insiders know the real story is a bombshell report from L'Equipe exposing a technical scandal that threatens to ruin the 2026 season before the first light goes out in Melbourne. Mercedes and Red Bull have found a loophole so clever and legally gray that it has left rivals like Honda and Audi scrambling. Adrian Newey, the man who usually finds the unfair advantage, has found himself on the receiving end of one, and he is absolutely livid. The news broke late last night when French outlet L'Equipe reported that Adrian Newey is furious following a secret meeting with the FIA regarding a specific manipulation of the new 2026 engine regulations by Mercedes. For months, rumors suggested the German manufacturer had found something special, and now it appears they discovered a fundamental reinterpretation of the rules that defines how the engine generates power. Aston Martin and Ferrari have formally complained, arguing that this solution violates the spirit of the regulations. The issue is that the FIA has measured the component and decided it is legal? This ruling has left the paddock in turmoil, with team principals shouting in hospitality units and lawyers drafting protests for the Australian Grand Prix. Honda did not see this coming, having built their engine to the letter of the law, while Mercedes built theirs to the limit of physics. The situation comes down to something called the geometric compression ratio. The 2026 rules were supposed to be strict to keep costs down and performance level, so the FIA mandated a fixed compression ratio of 16:1. That number is written in black and white, leading Honda to build an engine with that exact ratio. Mercedes engineers read the rule differently, realizing it only specifies how the ratio is measured when the engine is cold and stationary during scrutineering. They investigated if the ratio could change when the engine gets hot. Reports suggest Mercedes and Red Bull powertrains have used specific materials that thermally expand at high operating temperatures. When the engine fires up and heat builds, the pistons and cylinder heads expand in a calculated way to shrink the combustion chamber volume just enough to drive the compression ratio up from the legal 16:1 to a much more potent 18:1. This is active geometry triggered by heat, and because the FIA measures the car in the garage rather than at speed, it passes every single test. If you want to stay ahead of these technical wars, make sure to subscribe as we track every development in the paddock. We can now examine the specific numbers behind this controversy. While a ratio change from 16 to 18 might seem minor, in Formula One, it creates a massive difference. Early data suggests this thermal trick unlocks approximately 10 kilowatts of additional power, translating to roughly 15 brake horsepower. In a spec engine era where margins are razor thin, 15 horsepower is a lifetime. On tracks like Monza or Spa, that power deficit means 3 to 4/10 of a second per lap, meaning Aston Martin would finish 20 seconds behind Mercedes purely because of the engine. A higher compression ratio also burns fuel more cleanly, allowing Mercedes to run a lighter car or push harder for longer. Adrian Newey knows that no matter how brilliant his chassis is or how tight his side pods are, he cannot design his way out of a 15 horsepower hole. The AMR 26 could be the most aerodynamic car on the grid, but if it is pushed by a Honda engine that is fundamentally weaker than the Mercedes in the back of the Williams, Alonso will not be able to compete. This situation presents a nightmare for Honda as the Japanese manufacturer returned to Formula One specifically to power Aston Martin's championship bid and prides itself on engineering precision. Honda Racing President Koji Watanabe admitted earlier this week that the new regulations were challenging, though he did not mention they were simply outsmarted. Sources inside the team say Honda engineers interpreted the rules conservatively, assuming a fixed ratio meant a fixed ratio, and now they face a rival engine that effectively changes shape while driving. This gap cannot be fixed with a software update because replicating the Mercedes trick would require redesigning the physical architecture of the engine block and pistons. They would need new materials, new casting molds, and months of reliability testing. Since the first race is only weeks away, there is zero time to redesign the engine before the homologation deadline, leaving Aston Martin stuck with this power unit for the start of the season. The tension is already impacting operations, evidenced by the Aston Martin garage doors remaining shut, while Mercedes, Red Bull, and even Haas rack up laps in Barcelona. The official team statement claims the AMR 26 will run on Thursday and Friday as part of a planned schedule, but few believe that explanation. Teams do not voluntarily skip days of testing in a new regulation year when every lap provides crucial data. Missing Monday and Tuesday suggests a crisis, with rumors circulating that the car requires last-minute modifications to the cooling packaging, either to mitigate the engine deficit or because Honda is trying to push the engine harder to compensate. The lack of communication from the Silverstone team is notable. Lawrence Stroll does not accept second best, and seeing his massive investment sitting on jack stands while Max Verstappen sets purple sectors is undoubtedly frustrating. Fernando Alonso signed a contract extension specifically because he believed in the Newey Honda project, and turning 45 this year means he does not have time for a development season. Reports from Spain indicate Alonso is predictably furious, having been in this position before where he was promised a championship car, only to find himself driving an uncompetitive machine. If Mercedes has a locked-in advantage, 2026 becomes a wash for him. While his media comments have been guarded, his body language suggests he knows that if the FIA does not ban this Mercedes system, he is fighting for 5th place at best. The reported open revolt isn't just about Newey, but also about a driver who feels the opportunity is slipping away one last time, as Alonso stayed to win rather than watch George Russell drive into the sunset. Responsibility now falls to the FIA, putting Nicholas Tombazis and the technical delegates under immense pressure. Banning the Mercedes trick now would punish innovation after the team simply read the rules and found a better way, which is central to Formula One. However, allowing it to stay risks a boring season where only Mercedes and Red Bull can compete. Ferrari and Aston Martin are threatening a formal protest in Australia, demanding a new measurement directive where the compression ratio is checked while hot or at operating temperature. If the FIA agrees to that condition, the Mercedes engine becomes illegal overnight. Changing measurement procedures days before the season starts is unprecedented and would force Mercedes to detune their engines, potentially causing reliability issues. It is a complicated political situation, but for now, the FIA is standing firm that the design is legal. Mercedes also benefits from supplying engines to McLaren, Williams, and Alpine, meaning 4 teams are gathering data on this new, expanding engine concept. In contrast, Honda only supplies Aston Martin, and Audi only supplies Sauber. Mercedes collects 4 times the data every single hour of testing, allowing them to refine this trick, optimize fuel maps, and improve reliability faster than anyone else. Even if Honda figures out how to copy the design, they will be 6 months behind on the learning curve. This highlights the reality of Formula One, where success depends not just on having the best idea, but having it first. Adrian Newey understands this better than anyone, explaining his anger at finding himself as the prey after a career of being the hunter. This scandal reshapes the narrative of the 2026 season, turning a year expected to reset the field into the potential start of another era of domination, decided by a clever interpretation of thermal physics rather than pure horsepower. The implications for Aston Martin are severe, as the Stroll project faces a crisis of confidence if they cannot close this gap. Adrian Newey is not used to losing, and certainly not because of an engine he didn't design. If the AMR 26 fails to challenge for wins, questions will arise about the decision to partner with Honda. Formula One remains a sport of thieves and geniuses, where Mercedes found a lock no one else saw and picked it. Aston Martin and Ferrari are now trying to change the locks, ensuring the politics leading up to Melbourne will be just as vicious as the racing. With the potential for disqualifications, court appeals, and massive grid penalties, the 2026 season is already the most controversial in a decade. The engines are firing up, while lawyers draft letters, and Adrian Newey goes on the warpath, guaranteeing a chaotic month ahead. If you want to follow every twist in this spy drama, make sure you are subscribed. Thanks for watching.